Now, what information does the Learning Mastery Gradebook give me as a teacher? In other words, why is it beneficial to use it to display data about my students and their mastery on their standards? Okay, so let's go ahead and do a walkthrough of the view. And so you can see that we're already here, and you can see how to get here in another video. But let's just go over all the little details of this page. And right now I just have 2 standards in this, but it's going to display as many standards that you have imported into your course. And that's why it's important to really just import them as you're using them on assignments. You don't want to go importing 30 standards that you're not actually assessing, because that's just going to totally fill up your Learning Mastery Gradebook. Okay, let's start here at the top, and you can see that it shows this first row is course average. And if you were to click here, you can change the average from the average, where it's adding them together and dividing by the number of individual students, individual scores, to the median. Okay, so that's if we were to line them all up, and what's that middle one. And so you can see that it changed in each one of these, 2.35 out of a mastery of 3, or 2.95 out of a mastery of 3, and I changed it back to average, 2.18, 2.8. And so so that is a good piece of information to know. And let's go back in here and let's just look at this. It shows that these are out of 3, except for our scoring is out of 4, 4 being exceeds. So why does it show 3? Well, because that is what mastery level is set, that if they meet the 3, the M, that they have mastered this. Okay, and so that's why it shows out of 3 instead of out of 4. Okay, now notice that these are not doing any calculations in terms of percentages or anything else like that. And you can see 4 out of 3 right here isn't showing 125% or anything else like that. But this is just what their score is based off of that level of mastery. And so if this student has scored a 4, that means that they have exceeded the level of mastery on this one. But this student has got a score of 1 out of 3 on this standard. And so they have not hit mastery. They need improvement. Let's go down to this next row, and you see that it says learning outcome. And these are the specific outcomes as they are imported. And so that when we hover over here, you can see that it gives a lot more information about the outcome. So it shows you what the group is. And again, that's the manual group that you set up when you import it. As we imported into our district, we did it with the standard code, I guess, as well as the written out standard, so that you actually have some information that you can work with here. It shows you some statistics. Okay, and let's do a different one. Let's do this one so that we can see that wide range. Again, we're going to hover over there, and let's see, right there. And you can see again, group, code, the actual standard, and then some statistics. This is showing that 20% of my students are at the needs improvement, 40% is at nearly meets, and 40% is at meets. Okay, so let's say that these statistics were flipped, and 20% were at meets, 40 and 40 were at nearly meets and needs improvement. Well, that would show me that as a teacher, I need to attend to this standard more. I need to give more instruction, perhaps another assessment piece or whatever. Whereas with this one, same idea, that half of my students are not meeting this standard. They're at needs improvement. So that's giving me information so that data is driving instruction. So actual results are driving my instruction. Underneath here, you can see again, it shows the description. Okay, so we have it in 2 spots. It reminds us that mastery is at 3, and each one of these will show how the calculation is done. And for our standards, we're using the decaying average method that we described in another video. So that's what information is displayed when you hover over it. Okay. Next, we come down to the individual student rows. Okay. Now notice though that this is the standard, not a single piece of assessment. And so as we showed in the student view video, each one of these is actually multiple pieces of assessment. Okay. And so what it's doing is it's averaging those together to give us that score. That's why we have a 2.95 there versus a whole number of 1 or 2 or 3, whatever, is because it's averaging those assessment pieces together to give us how they did on the whole. And it's using that that methodology here, where it is giving the most recent assignment a 65% weight and all other assignments a 35% weight, so that it is as accurate as possible in its calculation. But here you can see that this student is doing decent on 3.L.1 and is doing really, really well on 3.RI.5. Okay. If you wanted to be able to see the standard a little bit better, you can grab between it and drag it out. And don't worry, if you refresh, it's going to go back. You don't have to drag it back. Okay. Let's zoom in a little bit here. Okay. And notice that it shows all the different colors, and that the colors do represent the different levels from exceeds expectations all the way down to needs improvement. And an NE, which is black, meaning that it's a 0, that there was that student maybe came later in the year, did not do that assessment piece, and so they received a 0 on it, or an excused, but there's no evidence for that. That just kind of gives you a quick glance view on that particular standard. Okay. Now, if I were to click on any one of these colors, what's going to happen is those particular standards are going to go away. And so that kind of gives us a nice way to narrow down to just those students that are maybe needs improvement on that particular standard. Okay, so here I can see I need to do some targeted intervention with Samantha and Stanley, whereas I don't need to with Canvas student and Stewart student. And so by clicking these or unclicking them, it's going to give us that narrowed down view. And finally, well, two more things really. If you wanted to hide a student that has no results in an outcome, click there, hide the outcomes with no results. Now, obviously, these all have some results, so when I click that, nothing happened. But you notice that this student does not have any grades or any assessment pieces. Now, that does not mean that they have not done it. That might indicate that I haven't graded it yet. And so that empty box there just indicates that. And so I'm going to go ahead and click on Test Student. And it's going to pop up this menu over here on the right. I'm going to click Grades. And it's giving me that student view again. I'm going to go ahead and expand all of them. And notice right here that I'm seeing some worksheet 1 not assessed, worksheet 1 not assessed. And so I need to go in and actually grade these assignments before those standards are going to show up. Okay, so I'm going to go to Speed Grader. And who is this? This is Test Student. Okay, so I'm going to make sure I'm on Test Student, View Rubric, give them their scores. Good. Do the same thing for here. Speed Grader. And again, I'm going to go to Test Student, View Rubric, give them their scores. It populates there. Now when I go back to the Learning Mastery Gradebook, I'm going to hit refresh. And there you go. Now I actually have some scores for that student. So that's all that means, is that there are some assignments that need to be assessed. So that's the what a teacher can use this for. I will go over how to export these scores in another video, but I hope this is helpful information. Cheers.